Well, my name is Leah Hausman. I am the programs coordinator with the Research Acceleration and Strategic Initiatives Office that houses the Undergraduate Research Initiative. We're currently in the process of hiring a new undergraduate research coordinator. So in the interim, different members of our office will be helping you all with the SURE program. I'd also like to introduce our student assistant, Christine. That's just over here. She will be also kind of frontlining the program until we have a coordinator. And then I'd finally like to introduce Brette Kristoff. She is an experiential learning coordinator with the USask Career Services Office. And she's also the program lead for the RBC Learn to Work, Work to Learn program. And she'll be talking with you today about all that career services can do for you. So I will hand it over to her.
Thanks, Leah. Hi, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here with you guys today. I know lots of you are online, so hello. Christine is manning the chat, so if you can't hear me or if you want to ask a question or for me to slow down or repeat something, please just pop something in the chat so we can answer your question. Hybrid's always a little bit of a balancing act in terms of the people in the room and the people that are joining us virtually. So welcome. I'm really excited to be here. As Leah introduced, I work for the Office of Career Services, which is a central office here at USask. And my primary role is as an experiential learning coordinator and the program lead for the RBC Learn to Work, Work to Learn program. So I'm going to be here today to talk to you or introduce a little bit about career planning or career preparation and some of the professional development opportunities that are available to you as USask students and actually as alumni. So our Office of Career Services, let's see, oops, now this isn't working. Uh-oh. Space? Oh no, guys. That's okay. I'll just use this. That's fine. Okay, so first let me break down a little bit to you guys what it is experiential learning is. I know it's a bit of a mouthful whenever I explain to people what it is that I do, but essentially experiential learning is learning by doing or learning through experiences. And it's not just enough to participate in an experience, we actually have to do some reflection and some feedback. So that's really what kind of accelerates this learning process where we're able to think about what we know and do in a context. So whether that's in a research lab or in the workplace, even in the classroom can be experiential, right? But then those opportunities for feedback, which primarily right now as undergraduate students happens in assessments on our work. So feedback that we get from instructors on our work, but it's also very common in the workplace to have what we call performance reviews, right? So this is all in preparation for the working world and getting you to start thinking about what it is that you know, what it is that you do, and starting to really build in some reflective processes or some reflective abilities so that we can actually expand what it is that we know and do and kind of accelerate this process of knowing. So that is a little bit about my experiential learning background. So what you guys are doing in this student undergraduate research experience is a type of experiential learning. There's lots of many different forms of EL. But as long as they have that reflection and feedback, you're getting an experiential opportunity out of something like this. So I'll tell you a little bit more about some of the other opportunities that we have on campus, but you guys are already participating in an experiential learning opportunity by being a part of the SURE program. So well done. In my view, this is really where the learning happens. So learning in a classroom is great. Learning in a textbook can be very helpful. But when we actually get into the real world and we start to do real things, that's where we're actually starting to practice our skills and improve them, right? Especially if we tie in that reflection and feedback, right? So for me, experiential learning is my preferred way to learn. When I was an undergraduate student, I participated in some similar programs, kind of just like SURE. It was called the FIRE program at that point, which is the first year research experience, which I think is the rebrand of SURE, or they're still, okay. So I participated in that program as an undergraduate. And then when I did my graduate studies, I participated as a graduate peer mentor. And those experiences really, really helped me get to where I am today. So I'm here to encourage you and give you a little bit of enthusiasm that the actions you're doing today are building those stepping stones or are a part of those stepping stones to get you to the ultimate goal, which is having a job at the end of your program. So keep that in mind, that I participated in very similar programs like this, built them into my resume, used the connections that I made in these experiences to help me get other jobs, help me get better references, etc. So good for you guys. These types of activities will help you get to where you want to go. And if you don't know exactly where you want to go, that's okay too. We're going to talk a little bit about career planning and career mapping, and talk a little bit about how we do that at the Career Services Office. You can go to the next one there. Office. Sweet. So no, great. So if you type in USask Career Services, you should get to a website that kind of looks like this. And from here, you can find all sorts of different resources and opportunities that we have at our office. So we have career coaches where you can meet one-on-one, either in person or online with a career coach to talk through some of your career planning and ideas that you have. We can work on resume building and cover letter writing. We have mock interview sessions, which are really good, particularly if you're nervous about the interview process. And those can be really good, just practice, just to get a better sense of the kinds of questions that employers ask. And then we also do career fairs, career talks, where we bring employers in to kind of share their insight on their industry and what kind of opportunities they have for students. And then we have all sorts of job postings and listings on our website. If you want more detail, if you search USask Career Link, I also have a link I'll give it to Christine and she can pop it in the chat. But Career Link is actually kind of like the USask version of Indeed. So you can book all of these appointments that we have with our career coaches on the Career Link page, but you can also see upcoming events, employer pop-ups, career fairs, workshops for resume writing, all sorts of different things. And then there's also a page for student positions. So employers will post their student jobs on the Career Link website. So you'll have direct access to apply for those jobs. And if you're a USask student, you automatically have access to Career Link. You just need to log in using your NSID. Actually, do you want to click on the Career Link in the notes just so they can see? No, yeah, right there. Yeah, you might have to copy and paste it. That's okay. Don't worry about it. No, we'll just move on. Don't worry. Don't worry. I'll just send that to, if you just want to copy that link, if you can, otherwise we'll do it after. We'll send you that link to Career Link, but otherwise you can just search up USask Career Link and it should take you right to the page. And then you just log in as a student. Awesome. Sorry, guys. So for those of you that are here today, I have some of these resume templates and cover letter guides that we have in our office. For those that are joining online, I don't have a PDF version of this, but I welcome you next time you guys are on campus to come and find our Office of Career Services. You'll know that you're around there because you'll see these guides out and about. We're right by underneath the USask bookstore. It's called Lower Marquis. It's a little bit of a hidden spot. But it's right at the back of Place Royale. There's actually multiple entrances. So you can get in from the Tim Hortons side by the bookstore right before you go up to Marquis Hall, or you can enter our office from the Place Royale side where there's that lovely little atrium. Sometimes they have the posters set up there at the back of Place Royale. And you'll see our sign there and you can just come in. So it's a little bit hidden, but I encourage you guys to come and see us. I'll just pass these to you guys that are here. And then those that are joining online, come and see us next time you're on campus and you can come and grab one of these. So in this kind of template here, you'll see some best practices for resume guides. We see a lot of resumes. So this was created with all that experience and with some consultation with different departments and industry. And so this is kind of the outline that we encourage students to have in their resumes. Sometimes we see lots of really fun font and colors, people trying to make it interesting. Admittedly, my resume was like that for a really long time. And then there was a kind of a lull where I wasn't getting any callbacks and I was kind of wondering what was going on. You know, was it me? Was it my resume? Oftentimes it's actually just the process. So, you get, 20 to 50 applicants, right? And you're just kind of making the process go faster. And if you see a resume, sometimes it can be the most minor thing. And it'll end up in the no pile, even if you are a really strong candidate. So don't let that discourage you, but just hopefully gives you just a little bit of perspective if you are kind of getting, hitting lots of dead walls on your career search. That sometimes that might mean you might need to change things up in your resume. So the more simple, the better for your resume. You want to make it really easy for the employer to be able to see who you are, what experience you have. Another tip that I have, and we're not going to spend too much time in this today, because I know that we're kind of all over the map in terms of where we are for our career development. We might already have a summer internship or research position or a summer job, so we might be a little bit beyond this point. So I'm just going to talk briefly about it, and then you guys can feel free to access our services if you need. But best practices are simple. So make it easy for the employer to be able to understand who you are and what experience you come with. You do want to make sure that your cover letter and your resume are customized for each job that you're applying for. It's really easy for employers to tell if this is a copy and paste and just a generic resume that you just hand out without customizing it. So it's really important that you are customizing your resume and your cover letter for the specific job that you're applying for. So highlighting the most relevant experience, whether that is the last job you have or the most applicable job that you've experienced that you have for this position you're applying for. So it's really about taking stock, taking note of the job application or the posting of the job, and finding the key terms and phrases, thinking about your skill set and trying to find a way for them to fit, for you to show that you have the experience and the skills. Maybe if it's not directly related, but you can still frame your experience and your expertise as being valuable to the company or to the position or role. So these things are things that we can help you at Career Services. In this little package, we also talk a little bit about the statements that you can make in your resume. So using an action verb like collaborated or organized or facilitated. Those are action verbs. And then you add a skill or task that you've done and then how it was developed or how it was measured. When you can quantify something, try to quantify. So using numbers, right? So collaborated with a team of 50 other students. I don't know, I'm making it up as I go, right? So that number can really help to really quantify your experience and demonstrate the kind of quality or the kind of experience that you might have had. Other tips are for interview tips, another thing that we can help you with at Career Services. So lots of really good information. And then at the back, you can just scan this QR code and that'll bring you right to the website that I had shown you just a minute ago there. So that's just a really, really brief overview of resumes. I might also add for this group, since you guys are interested in research, the difference between a CV and a resume. We get a lot of questions about that. So a CV in Canada is often used interchangeably with the word resume, but they are quite different. So a CV is Latin for curriculum vitae, which means kind of a summary of all your curricular experiences. So it's a much longer form version of a resume. So how I have a CV, and that's kind of like my treasure chest of experience. So when I want to apply for a job, I go to my CV and I pull out the most relevant experience and I plug it in to a new resume. So I actually use my CV as kind of my storage, and then my resume is customized for each job that I'm applying for. So the CV is where you would include conferences that you attended, professional development workshops such as this that you might have attended, your experience in the SURE program, all sorts of different things. Usually you also include they're typically for teaching or research positions. So you would include perhaps a mission statement in your CV where you're stating your claim as a teacher or as an educator and what your teaching philosophy is, or your kind of mission as a researcher, or your kind of personal mission statement. So I think my CV is now getting close to about 20 pages, which feels really good. I'm very confident, very proud of that. It's growing. Whereas a resume is going to be maximum 3 pages. So you want 2 pages of detailing your experience and your education, 1 page for references. Your CV can really be as long as it needs to be, right? So the more experience you have, your CV grows, right? And that's why when I'm applying for a new job, I look at my CV as kind of my database, and I plug in the most relevant experience into the resume to kind of customize that. So that's a very quick overview, guys, but I encourage you to come to one of our resume talks where we can talk a little bit more in detail about this, and we can actually give you specific advice. If you bring a physical copy in of your resume, we can pinpoint different highlight different areas that we might suggest improvements for or changes on, that kind of thing. So that's all stuff that we can help you with at Career Services. So we also have some headings that you can use. I know sometimes the potential, like these potential headings, work experience, relevant experience, right? These can be a little tricky. So we have resources for those. So we're here to serve you guys. Again, we work for students and alumni at the Career Services office. So even after you graduate, you can still come to our office and use our services. And so the reason why our office exists is because we really want to create the graduates and the leaders of tomorrow, right? So these are our students here, as we've pledged to be what the world needs. We're working towards creating a better workforce and better workers. So part of this means kind of focusing in on core areas or core skills. So these are what we call the USask competencies or USask graduate competencies. And these are skills that we're confident our students will all have experience and success in after they complete their program. So these include, if you can't read them, and they're up on the boards here around the room for those that are here in person, engaging in intercultural society, nurturing successful relationships, leveraging technology, adaptive design and problem solving, communicating meaningfully. I don't know why that was hard. Communicating meaningfully, and cultivating resilience. So these are different competencies. And what works really nice with these is you can actually, when you get a better sense of these, and these will be available, I can send these out to you guys soon. These don't actually exist on a website right now. But they will for the fall. So you guys in this SURE program are actually getting a sneak peek at something that's going to be launched out in the fall. But for right now, I can send you guys kind of a PDF, a version of these. And what you can actually do is you can work these lovely 6 categories into your resume and cover letter, because these are things that employers want their employees to have. What we call these are transferable skills. So these are different than your technical skills that you're learning in the lab or in the classroom. Those are hard skills, right? If you're a computer scientist, that would be programming. You know, if you're an engineer, I'm not sure what engineers do, but that would be, right, they're technical skills, right? But the soft skills come with experience. Your ability to read a room, your ability to pick up on body language, or mannerisms, to understand whether somebody is confused or angry or ticked off or, you know, anxious about something. Those are soft skills. And soft skills, the only way that those can really be cultivated is through experience. So what we're finding is that there's a gap between the hard skills and the soft skills. Students are very capable at doing those technical skills. It's the soft skills that we need to work on, right? Because those aren't being taught in the classroom. So that's where our office steps in and helps to support students so that we can really build up these soft skills, so that when you enter the workplace, it's not that much of a challenge for you to adjust into the office or lab setting wherever you happen to work. And oftentimes hard skills can be taught. As you move to new positions, there'll be new things for you to learn, and that's totally fine. It's these soft skills that your employer wants you to come in already having that ability to understand and be able to work in multicultural contexts, to be able to understand differences in learning, differences in communication, being able to wear different hats, right? Being able to talk to an audience of undergraduate students is one thing, but being able to talk to a bunch of 6-year-olds is another thing, right? So, but how do you switch And then how do you talk to the higher ups, right? How do we talk to the vice provost or the president of the university, right? When we speak to those different audiences, our communication is going to change a little bit. So those are things that transferable skills are going to help you develop, that ability to be adaptable. And it all really comes down to that adaptability and that resiliency, that kind of a growth mindset, that understanding that we don't all know everything, and that's okay. But we're here to learn, and we're willing to have feedback. We're willing to work with others because we want to improve who we are as people and how we learn and work in this world. So we'll talk a little bit about that later on. So career clarity, I just want to take a minute for you guys to think about how clear you feel your career path is on a scale of 1 to 10. So of course, 1 being not very clear and 10 being super, super clear. I know what I want and how to get it. Yeah, exactly. And what to do to get it, right? It's one thing to know what you want, but another thing to know how to get it, right? Or how prepared do you feel? So just take a second to kind of judge where you're at. And this is where I was hoping to pause and give you guys about 10 minutes to complete that survey. So Christine would have sent you a link to the survey. And essentially the survey is going to ask you the same thing, just to kind of question yourself on your transferable skills, how comfortable you feel in problem solving, creativity. This is a totally anonymous survey. We won't be able to tell whose answers are whose. But at the end of the survey, it will ask you to put your email in if you want to be entered to win, I think 3 gift cards valued at $100. There's 3 gift cards. So you can put your email in, and that will still remain anonymous, but we'll have your email kind of on the other end kind of thing. And then there will be a question as to whether or not you're participating in an experiential or work learning opportunity. And if you're not clear on that one, you can just let me know. But the answer for you guys is yes, because you're participating in the SURE program. And so there should be a little drop down box where you can add SURE program. And that'll just bring some clarity as to the participants filling out the survey. Again, it's completely anonymous. I'll just give you 10 minutes maybe to do that, and then we will continue. just give you, my timer still says 2 minutes. I know that you guys could complete this on your own time as well, but it's easy to forget. So I thought I'd just give you the time to do it now. It's not too hard either. So another minute or so. Put the next slide up for those that might be done or as we're finishing, but things to consider when career planning. I think it's on. I think it's just the way I am. I'm also not talking as loud. So things to consider in your career planning, right? Your personality, your work-life experiences, your values you have, it's just kind of the way my body is turned. Your strengths and your skills. But then also family dynamics, significant other things might influence your career path. And if you are one of those people who, like me, when I started out in my undergrad, who had really no idea what I wanted to do, that's okay. Because whether or not you have a really clear plan or goal, life happens and things change and pandemics happen. That's another example of things that unexpectedly pop up that change the course of your plan or the timing of your plan, and that's okay. So I'm here to tell you that career planning is not a linear process. I think we want it to be as students, much like writing papers. We want to just sit down and write it and have it be done. But there's actually a lot of planning and preparation, usually some research involved before we actually can start on that path. And even when we start, things can happen. We might change our minds, or different life events can happen that might change things up as well. So I'm all about non-linear career paths. And I think most people who you could talk to about their career path would tell you that there's a lot of luck that happens, a lot of timing that is just right, but you also need to be prepared for when that timing happens. It's usually timing and preparation are the two things I like to keep in mind when thinking about a career, that we don't really always get to be in control of the timing. Sorry, guys. That's time. That's 10 minutes. Sorry, I'll turn that off now. We don't always get to control the timing of life or of the world. But we can prepare ourselves and we can remain adaptable. And whether or not it is your dream job or your first job that's getting you to your dream job, it's all about the journey. And you're learning something along the way, no matter where it is that you're working or what kind of skills you're using in your job. And so most people at least once in their life will have a career change, whether it's changing office or completely changing the title of their job, what it is that they do. Usually at least once in your career, you'll have one, if not many. So don't get overwhelmed if you don't know. And if you do know and you're really narrowed in, think a little bit more about adaptability that way, so that, if you do end up getting that dream job and it turns out there's something about it that you just can't stand, you're not devastated and you're able to pivot and find something else that really works for you with the work-life balance that you're after, with your skills, with your personality and your training, your education, your background. So these are all things that our career coaches at Career Services can help walk you through. But by already participating in these programs, you guys are demonstrating that you are thinking about your future and you're actively engaging in different opportunities to create the future it is that you want, or the future job that you're after. So as we're doing this, and I've mentioned this, preparation is key. Spend time. So not just right now, not just as we've done this little survey, that I hope you guys were able to complete, and you can finish it on your own time if you need. Spend some time throughout the summer as you're participating in these different initiatives with the SURE program, reflecting on what it is you feel you're good at. What are your skills? What are your abilities? What do you like to do? What do you not like to do? That's helpful. I wouldn't dwell and stay in that negative space too long, but it is helpful to think about what it is you don't like or don't want. but try to think about the opposite to keep those in balance, because otherwise it can become a little bit negative. But it is important to think about, sometimes it's easier to think about what it is we don't want. So that can be helpful to start. And then think more broadly, think beyond just work experience, think about these, what was just on the other side, you know, what it is you want your work-life kind of balance to be. What's your personality? Do you like working with people? Do you like working alone? Do you like doing the same thing every day? Do you want a bit of variety? Do you want to have a desk job? I admittedly did not think I wanted a desk job. Now I have one. And I love it. But I'm also able to get up out of my desk and come into different classrooms because I work here at the university. So sometimes we also think we know what we want, and then life shows us otherwise too. So just keep an open mind as well, because you never know what you might like and what you don't like until you experience it. So transferable skills, you guys have them. We talked a little bit about them. Maybe you're really good at technology. Admittedly, that's probably one of my weakest areas. And I'm very open about that. So I'll go in a job interview and I'm like, you know what, I kind of repel technology, but I work really hard with tech people, and I'm really friendly to them. You know, I'll bring them Tim Hortons gift cards and stuff like that because they're my best friends, because I'll need them on speed dial, that type of thing, right? And I know that about myself, that technology and I are not the best of friends. But when you have that self-awareness, right, you can kind of use different resources to your advantage that way. So sometimes it's important to look at what it is we're good at and what it is we're not so good at. And we'll talk a little bit about that on the next slide. But transferable skills are also these, right? Your intercultural awareness, your interpersonal skills, how good you are with managing relationships, your ability to problem solve or think creatively, or, you know, that entrepreneurial spirit. You have that really kind of imagination where you can kind of think of new inventions or new strategies towards things. That's a transferable quality that will really be applicable no matter where you go, right? That ability to think creatively or problem solve. So we're going to switch gears then and think a little bit more about what we're going to do in our next session together when I'm with you guys next week. And then I want to save a couple minutes for questions for you guys too, because I'd love to answer some questions. So when we meet next week, we're going to pick off kind of here. We're going to think more about the skills that you guys have. And if you guys register for the next session with me, which I think is on the 23rd, and I think you have to register before this Friday, I think, just so that we can get all our ducks in a row so that we're ready to go for Tuesday. And what we're going to get you guys to do is what's called a Clifton Strengths Assessment. Has anybody heard of this in the room virtually? No? I had only heard about it this year. And I took this Clifton Strengths Assessment. It's kind of like Myers-Briggs, but way more evidence-based with way more research. And way more accuracy. So it's really, really cool. We actually stopped using any other personality test placement other than this one. This is the only one our office uses because it's so good. And actually, when you get your little report after you take the placement, the most common reaction is, whoa, this is scary, like scary accurate. Like it's really, really accurate. So Clifton Strengths, it's a positive psychology backed resource for identifying common themes or areas in our patterns of thought. So it was created by Donald Clifton, who was a professor, I believe, at the University of, I want to say Kentucky, but I might be wrong. Psychologists, and that positive psychologist piece is important, right? Because it's all about skills, focusing in on strengths, focusing on qualities that you naturally possess, and working to really emphasize those, working with what you have. So be more of who you already are. That's the key to your success. That's why positive psychology, such as this, really focuses on the skills that you have rather than looking at the opposite, which is, okay, what am I not good at? And kind of ruminating on that and focusing kind of on that negative kind of aspect. This is shifting that focus. So you're only focusing on what areas you're already very competent in. So what will happen if you register for next week's session, you'll get sent a code and you'll do this assessment online. It takes about anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour. I think I did it in 30 minutes. And I would encourage you to take it when you have like at least an hour to sit down and read it. It is timed because it wants to measure your most immediate kind of gut response to the question it's asking you. But yeah, it takes max about 45 minutes, let's say. And at the end, what you'll get sent is something that looks kind of like this. It's your individual strengths report, and then you can read it. So if you're curious, I don't know who Jordan Becker is, but my themes are input. So I like to give and receive input, connectedness. I like to notice and can notice patterns of connection between different situations, people's ideas. Another one of mine is strategic. So I'm a really strategic thinker. I like to think about the future and how we get there and what kind of the strategy is behind that. Another one of mine is intellection. So I'm a bit nerdy. And communication. I love to chat. I love to share ideas. I love to read. I love to listen, all sorts of those things. So when I learned that those were my areas, it made a lot of sense as to why I have stayed in post-secondary institutions, because I love ideas. I love knowledge. I love sharing ideas with people. I love learning. I love all of that. So it really makes sense that I'm doing what I'm doing, particularly in a coordination role where I have to communicate quite frequently with lots of different people. So that's my little sharing of the day, but you will get to do this placement hopefully by over the weekend, and you will get your top 5 themes coming out. And what we'll do in the next workshop is just kind of work through those. Let's see what other slides I have. Right. So a talent is a naturally reoccurring pattern of thought, feeling, or behavior. So talent themes are groups of similar talents. So things like intellection, ideas, input, those are kind of all sorts of, those are talent themes around like knowledge, right? Other talent themes might be action. So strategy, maximizer, those are all action talent themes, right? So there's different themes. We'll get into that a little bit more next time together. So a strength, again, is the ability to consistently produce a positive outcome through near perfect performance. I don't know if I really love that phrasing of it, near perfect performance. But it's something that you don't have to think too much about. It's just a strength or a quality that you already possess. So it doesn't require a lot of effort. That's probably a better way of framing it. So near perfect performance, I don't know why near perfect. I did not write that. I borrowed this particular slide from a deck that Clifton Strengths gives us. But yeah, so I would frame it more as something that just is natural to you, that you actually don't need to focus too much on. It just comes quite naturally to you. And then a weakness is anything that gets away in your talents. Or, I mean, your strengths can also be weaknesses in excess. So that's something we'll talk a little bit more about. So one of my talents or my strengths is communication. However, I talk really fast. And I'm aware that I talk very fast, and that can be overwhelming when somebody is like bop, 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 all these ideas talking really quickly around you, right? So that could be overwhelming to some people. So even though it's a strength to be able to communicate ideas with people, I need to know that if I let that strength just go fully unchecked without reining it in and trying to balance it, it can actually end up kind of being a bit more challenging than a strength, right? So always thinking about our strengths in excess and finding that sweet spot, right? If we're really analytical, that's a great quality to be paying attention to detail, to be critical. Those are really great qualities. However, if we only live in an analytical space, nothing gets done, right? Then we'd only be thinking about problems and we could get really stuck and not actually do anything, right? So thinking about our strengths in balance, and then in excess, how that might look like so that we can really maximize those qualities. No. Here's a better description of a strength, right? So you have a talent, you have this natural ability, you're aware of it, you have your knowledge, your skills, you're also practicing it, you're refining it. Then it really becomes a strength that you can utilize in a job context, but also in your personal life too. All of these areas really transfer into my personal life and my professional life too. So you guys will see that. People change over time, right? And we can change our perspectives, right? And our ability to use these skills will change over time, or how we're using it. But again, this is really comes back to that idea of experiential learning, where we're learning by doing and reflecting on what we're doing, right? So really enhancing that process. There are 34 talent themes. So when I shared my 5, those are only 5. But there's 34. And the way that they frame these talents or these 34 themes, is that we all have these themes. They're kind of like muscle groups in our body. We all have these muscles. Some of them are stronger than the others because we use them more. And some of them we just use without thinking, right? But we all have these 4 talent themes and can utilize or access them in different ways. But the first step is being aware of them, right? That awareness to be able to utilize them. Oh, yes. Yeah, there's nothing up on there. So I'm excited for you guys to do the placement, because it's really cool to see the different strengths that come out. And I really love hearing student feedback. So I hope that you guys join me next week, where we're going to chat a little bit more in depth about how to really frame these strengths, particularly in cover letter and resume writing, or in job interviews. Really, because these are what you have that are unique to you. We'll get to this here in 1 second at how unique they are to you. I'm aware of time because I want to leave a few minutes for questions. But here's kind of a snapshot of some of the talent themes, right? There's 34. So these are only like the first 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 or so. So like achiever, activator, adaptability. I was kind of sad I didn't get that one. And that's what happens, right? There's some where you're like, I'm definitely going to be adaptable. And it turns out, something else is a little bit higher. And that doesn't mean we don't have, right? We don't have that strength. Of course we do. If we're thinking about these all as muscles that we all have in our body that we can strengthen, right? Of course, we all have a little bits of these, but some of them are a little bit stronger than others, right? And then we can start thinking about how we might strengthen the other ones that we want to strengthen. So what's really cool about this placement test is that the results are the chances of somebody having the same top 5 themes in the same order is 1 in 33 million. So that's really unique. That's why we've shifted from using any other personality placement to using this one, because it's so unique and it's so customizable. So you and I might have the same top 5, but they could be in a different order, and that's going to change the dynamic of the rest of them. So the order that they come in is really important. So my top theme is input. So because that one is the same, my mom, let's say, for example, we're very similar. My mom and I could have the same themes, but they might not be in the same order. And that's going to really change the whole dynamic up of your placement. And when you get your assessment, it goes into a little bit of detail as to how they work together. But that's always really cool that you are 1 in 33 million when you take this test. So it's really unique. So you can really use these categories to really sell yourself when you're in the job interview process, or when you're planning on your career and thinking about how these categories will really help you get to where you want to be. The other cool thing that the Clifton Strengths Assessment does is it gives you ideas as to what kind of careers would be good for people with your strength categories, right? So people with my strengths are often journalists, educators, people that like to talk. That's why when I did my my test assessment, I was not too surprised that I ended up in the career that I'm in. So I'm going to wrap up quickly. One more little reflective activity here for you guys. I want you to think a little bit about goal setting. So goals, it's not enough just to say, I want to do this. I want you to think as well about a timeline, and then specific actions that you can do, big or small, to add up towards the ultimate goal. So, I like to think of goals as, this big kind of umbrella, but there's all these other little goals or little steps that need to be achieved before you can actually get to that kind of larger goal, right? Another way to think about this is the SMART acronym. So goals should be SMART, which is specific, measurable, achievable or actionable, something you want to you can actually do. SM, where am I? Sorry. No, so SMART, measurable. Oh yeah, realistic. No, relevant and time bound. So you want to put it in a time frame, right? So within 1 year, at the end of this summer, at the end of this month, right? What that's going to do, it's going to create some accountability, right? If you're like me and you procrastinate, having a time sensitive deadline is really, really important, because otherwise I'll just have all the time in the world, right? So really trying to work with yourself to create a time sensitive goal. So rather than thinking about your career or your job search, which can be a little bit scary, maybe you guys just want to think about your goal for your participation in the SURE program, what it is you want to get out of this experience, right? By the end of the summer, do you want to feel more confident in your career path, in your skills? Those can be goals, right? Thinking about the specific experience you're having over the summer and setting some goals for yourself. Maybe it's networking. Maybe you want to just expand your network, who you know on campus. Maybe you want to expand the possibilities that you're thinking of that you might go towards for your career, right? Maybe you want to learn about a little bit more about a specific career path. Lots of different goals. They can be specific to you. But I would encourage you to write it out, physically write it out on a piece of paper and have it near you, whether it's, on your mirror, in your bathroom, or in your day planner, wherever, and connect it to specific things you can do every day and put a timeline on it, or at least a checkpoint where you're checking in within a month or 3 months to say, okay, have I made any progress? Yes, no, what's challenging? What do I need to shift? And if your goal changes, that's okay, but we need to make sure we're creating those opportunities to check in, right? Remember that feedback, your self-reflecting, your self-feedback, right, is just as important as the feedback and reflection you're getting from your peers and your supervisors. So that's enough talking for me. I would love to answer some questions. I'll leave this up for you guys as well. This is Career Link. This is the one I was telling you guys. This is where all our jobs are posted on the Career Services website. You can book with us for a career coaching meeting. We do one-on-one appointments. We do drop-in daily. We have workshops for resume writing, CV, interview skills, all that fun stuff. And all sorts of different resources, including those resume guides that we have. We usually also have free stuff for students too. Like, I don't know, we always get like supplies from different sponsors and stuff. So there's always things that we're handing out at our office. So come check us out and say hi. We're quite friendly. We're open 8:30 to 4:30. Our summer hours, sometimes we're closed due to capacity, like our physical space is closed over lunch. But that's only during the summer. During the regular school year, September to April, we're open 8:30 to 4:30 every day. So any questions you guys have for me? This was a bit of an intro and a bit of a welcome. But next week, we're going to be talking more about the Clifton strengths and getting really into how we can build those up when we are job search or interviewing for a job. So thank you, guys. Sure. Oh, okay. That's probably a question for Leah.
Sorry, it's a question for me.
Can we email the recording of the presentation? Probably.
We will be posting it on our YouTube page.
Okay.
Once we have it all cleaned and make sure there's no identifying information of anyone on there, but it will be going online.
Okay. So on YouTube. Awesome. Thank you. And that survey, you guys can finish the survey at another time if you'd like. And then at the end of the summer, I'll be sending out a post survey. And that will help us, and again, get a sense of how much these activities that you're doing within the SURE program are really helping you, and what areas we need to perhaps improve on. It also is good for you to reflect on where you took, how you answered the questions the first time around and how you're answering them 2.5 months later, right? After you've had a chance to learn at different opportunities during your SURE program. So yeah, just a heads up. You'll be seeing me. You can't get rid of me. I'll be back. Any other questions? I think it's on the Eventbrite for the next Tuesdays.
Yeah, it's on the Eventbrite. It's also on the Sure newsletter, and it's on all of our socials. It's on pause.
Okay, so wherever you registered for this one,
I'm seeing the news from the house on the homepage.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
it should be there.
So this is like a weekly event or?
This Clifton Strengths. No.
I mean, this, sure.
Oh, no. So Sure is, it's an 10, would you like to explain?
Right.
He was curious about Sure.
Okay, so have you signed up for Sure yet?
I only signed up for this.
Only for this one. Oh,
okay, gotcha. I can. Yeah, actually, there's a QR code on the door. If you scan it, it'll take you to our website, and you can sign up for the actual Sure program and newsletters there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the Sure program, it's actually, it goes throughout the whole summer, and there's different sessions, much like this one was today. And students sign up for the specific sessions, and they have to complete, I think, about 10 of the offerings.
Yeah,
10
so
hours.
the way it works, you have to complete at least 10 hours of training. There have to be at least 2 hours in communication, and 2 hours in professional development, and 2 hours in research development, I'm pretty sure. And then you have 4 hours of elective hours.
Yeah.
It has to be at least 10. And once you complete those 10 hours, you actually get a co-curricular record.
Yeah.
Saying on it, and then you can put on your resume saying that you completed the Sure program. And if you don't complete all of your 10 hours, like in the summer, those roll over. So if you only get like 6 hours over the summer and you get the remaining 4 in the fall, you can then apply for your Sure CTR in the fall.
And I didn't speak about that much, but I did want to tell you that co-curricular offerings are really, really good for building up your experience, your resume or your CV. So a lot of times, right, you're doing a 4-year degree, right? So you have to wait until 4 years to be able to, have that degree. But in the meantime, there's a lot of these co-curricular offerings that are easier to, quicker, right? 10 hours, right, of work, roughly. And they look really, really good on your resume. So you can go to an employer and say, I participated in the student undergraduate research experience over the summer, where I was focusing on professional development, communication, and research preparation, or however you want to frame it, right? So I meant to add that to you guys, that participating in this Sure experience or Sure program can be included on your resume and will look really, really good. And there are tons of other co-curricular offerings at USask similar to this that will really look good on that resume too. So good question. So next Tuesday, we'll do the Clifton Strengths kind of debrief. I meant to add too that typically that this assessment is $25 for students to complete, but by registering for this event and participating in the event with me next Tuesday, we'll waive that fee. So our office will cover all those fees for you guys. So you won't have to pay anything, whereas normally you would. So that's awesome. And it's really, really worth it, guys. It's so cool. What we see is students struggling to find the words to talk about their skills, right? They know, you might know that you're a bit more of a thinker, right? That you like to be more, take your time on things. You like to look at detail. You might know that about yourself, but you might not know that that's a strength, or that's a quality that's unique to you. So what doing this assessment does is really opens up the possibilities and the language for talking about what is unique to you and what skills you have. And like I said, I just took this test a year ago. So a little late to the game, right? You guys are having that experience a little sooner than I am. And you think you know yourself, and then you do a test, like a placement like this, and you totally see yourself in a new light. So it's really, really useful, you guys. And so I'm really excited for you guys to try it. And then we'll talk about it next Tuesday when you join me. So thanks for having me. Any other questions? No?
Last call on the chat. If you have questions and you're online, post them now. We'll give you a couple minutes to type it out.
Yeah. I'll stick around too if you guys want to ask more questions. Yeah. Yeah. They're not, yeah. So there's, those are internal postings. Usually those are posted through the specific department they're posted in. So whether it's a research opportunity through chemistry or biology or whatever different departments, right? So yeah, those are internal postings that are managed by the department. So you usually have to go through the departments to find those opportunities. We are working to make that a little bit more accessible for students. There's another platform called Ripen that's really useful for that. It's not necessarily working with professors, but it's a platform for different organizations and different companies to post projects or job opportunities that they want student support on. So you sign up to a project on the Ripen platform. That information's all on our website too, if you're interested in Ripen. It looks like this. Ripen. And that's an EL or experiential learning platform. And it's all remote, it's all virtual. You usually get a stipend or a bursary for doing the work, but it's also really, really good for your resume. And it says, you know, I participated in this research project for the city of Saskatoon. They're one of our biggest posters on there. So they often have lots of research initiatives that they want students to work on, really good for your skill development for research as well. But good question. Right now, there's not a real clear way to access different research opportunities. It's usually about who you know, which is unfortunate. It's just, you know, right? It's just about building those networks. That's why participating in these types of activities really, really helps, because you're building those connections, you're, you know, connecting those dots, right? And then the next time somebody has a research, you know, initiative, they'll know, oh yes, there's that one student who's working on something similar. They'd be really great. And that's how I've ended up with a lot of my contracts that I was doing before I got my full-time position here. So good questions.
Awesome. I think we're good in the chat. So I
Good.
think we'll wrap up. But you can always contact Career Services if you have any more questions about this. And we'll be here next week to talk about Clifton Strengths.
Yeah.
So we're really excited about that. But thank you all for joining us. And we hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, guys. Yeah. Thank you. See you guys online.